You gave one of the most compelling testimonies I have ever heard. What would you say was the defining moment for you with your belief in God?
Well, Juliet, I have a really complicated history with church. I didn't realize what was happening until it was over.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to True Vine Ministries here at 896 Newton Carey Jr. Way, where the legacy continues. Let's give a hand praise for God, love, happiness, and health. Yes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Juliet Johnson, recent newlywed and 4-year member of True Vine Ministries. And today I am joined by the lovely Miss Latorra Baldridge. Hi, Latorra.
Hi, Juliet.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Good. You look good, and hopefully you feel good.
I do. I do. Yes.
Yes. Today we are digging deeper into our current theme of finding your faith in that moment, in a particular moment. And what better way to do this than ask some of our listeners, share some testimony, and maybe we can reach someone else out there who's looking to find some direction in their life. Okay. Latorra, you were recently at the leadership conference at the end of March, and I just have to say, you gave one of the most compelling testimonies I have ever heard. Just even bringing it back up is giving me goosebumps, which is why we wanted to invite you here today and share your testimony with the True Vine family. But many people have not seen you. They've heard about you, but they have not seen you. So before we dig into your amazing testimony, can you please share with us who you are, your city, and your profession?
Yes. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad that I could be a blessing in that way, and honored to serve my church family and to just be a part of that leadership institute, and it was a really amazing opportunity. So just a little bit about me. I am a mom. I have 5 beautiful kids. I have 3 biological kids and 2 bonus babies. My husband is actually a family member of True Vine, so that's how I was brought here to True Vine. So, you know, I'm kind of jumped into the church, you would say, through marriage.
Yep, same.
So, you know, Pastor Zach is my cousin, and so that's kind of how I was brought here to True Vine in a way. I am a principal. Well, my title is head of school of a TK-12 charter school in East Oakland. So we serve about 800 kids in the Sobrani Park neighborhood. All the way from 4-year-olds to 18-year-olds, teaching them how to learn their ABCs, all the way to getting them to college. And so it is a really tough job, and one that is really meaningful to me. I grew up in Oakland. Oakland is my home. Being able to be of service and to give back to my community is what grounds me, and I do that with a lot of love and a lot of energy and a lot of fervor. Like I'm very passionate about what I do. Yeah.
I love that. And this is why you're here, so we can dive deeper into it. So True Vine, we want to hear testimonies of everybody in the community, including servants like Latorra, okay? Some people are looking for a direction in life. Some people are looking for someone to believe in, something to believe in. And honestly, church isn't always the first thing that comes to mind. So Latorra, I wanted to open up the floor up to you and ask what drew you to True Vine, and how did you know it was the right place for you?
Yeah, well, Juliet, I have a really complicated history with church. I did not really grow up having a close connection with church. It was kind of the opposite. My mom also had a complicated relationship with church. So my mom, just like a quick backstory into my testimony, is my mom had schizophrenia. She was harmed pretty violently when she was a young person in high school. And as a consequence of like that incident, she developed schizophrenia. A lot of her history is spotty. Like, our family doesn't know, I don't know. But she did run away at some point, and she came back. She was pregnant with me. But part of her schizophrenia was a connection to unhealthy relationships, and she did have really unhealthy connections to unhealthy churches.
Okay.
So some of the ways that we would spend time together, because she didn't raise me. My aunt took custody of me later in my childhood. So my mom, I never lived with her. She didn't raise me, but the only way we would get to spend time together sometimes was on the weekend. So we would go to church together. She would take me to the churches that she would be visiting. And these were unhealthy churches, by all means. And I know that now as an adult. There were very unhealthy habits, unsafe people. We hear Pastor Zach and Dr. Donna talk about church hurt.
Yeah.
And not the church, but the people. So the people in those institutes were just full of harm in a lot of ways. So, I did experience some things that were really harmful to me as a young woman, like a lot of sexualizing from some of the adults in the church, or just kind of theatrics in the church from people, or some financial abuse of my mom because she had schizophrenia and wasn't able to really make good decisions. And so, I kind of watched this as a young person, and it framed my belief about what church was and who God's people were. And so as I got older and, started to be able to make my own decisions about what I wanted from my life, I started to think, I definitely don't want to be a part of a church. Education was a big part of my life, and part of education, unfortunately, there is a lens where you question the belief of God, or it doesn't make sense. It's a fabricated story. So then there is a lens of me that started to question God also. And so I really went through a huge part of my 20s where I didn't really believe in God. Some part of me believed that there had to be something. I wasn't totally disconnected. I still felt the presence of God. I couldn't quite deny it.
Right.
But I couldn't quite believe in God either. I couldn't accept, And so I met Dexter, my husband, my boo, my man. Yes.
Yes.
And he is a member of True Vine, and, Pastor Zach is his cousin. And, we're getting ready to get married. So my mom had a stroke, and so I moved her in with me.
Okay.
And so by that time, I had a child. I had a daughter in college. And so I was a single mom. Hardest moments of my life, I just felt like one of those hopeless moments, like I can't do this, it's too hard. Life is too hard. This is unfair. I've never had a mom. I don't know who my dad is. I don't even know what my race is, my other race. My mom is Black. I don't even know my other half. I don't have a connection to God. I don't have a connection to a church. And I don't really have a connection to my family either, So I just felt so alone. It was just such a lone moment.
Yeah.
And then I'm also trying to be a teacher.
Right.
Right. So then I'm dealing with the trauma of children.
Right.
In Oakland. And so then, God knows what he's doing though, right? So he blesses me with this amazing man in my life. And Dexter is like this big 6'5" guy. You would think he's like this tough guy, but he's really soft inside. He's got a really loving heart. And so he was able to see me as a friend and know that I needed love and support.
Yeah.
And part of his love and support was you need to come to church and he didn't even go to church. I don't even
But he knew.
Yeah, like, I don't even think he had been to True Vine for a while. But when he proposed to me, he's like, yeah, we need to go to marital counseling with my pastor. And I was like, why?
Me too. Why though?
This is so silly. Like, who does that? Like, for what?
For
like, what is this weird pastor gonna tell us? Like, he doesn't know. And then he had a lot to say that I still hold to this day. And like, one thing Pastor Zach said to me that I ping in my head to this day, is like, Latorra, are you going to be 15 forever?
He said that to you?
To my face. I don't even know him. I didn't even know him like that.
Oh, goodness.
Because I was telling him, like, this is what happened to me, and I didn't have this, and, my trauma history, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to be 15 forever. And I'm not, that whatever happened, it happened. And, the past is the past, it's over. And so, Dex and I started going to church. And I was really hesitant at first. I was really just waiting for the theatrics. And I was waiting for the church to, like, start doing weird stuff and the people to start being weird and mean or...
Mean, yep. Yeah. Yep.
Or, like, chairs to start being thrown.
Not the chairs. Not the chairs.
When the organ and stuff starts going and people start, it was like Church of God in Christ. It was like the churches that my mom really liked going. So sometimes the theatrics would really... It was a little too much for me. But that never happened. And then I was able to let my defenses down and listen. And one thing that I always appreciated about Pastor Zach was I could hear a message that I could just apply, and I can actually retell it to someone, even if I'm not retelling it as the gospel, because I didn't know the gospel.
Yeah, it didn't really resonate like that.
But I can share with my students who may be going through a hard time.
Right.
I may be able to, like, repeat his message in a way that helped me. I can speak to myself and I can speak to someone else. And I just felt like, okay, I can connect to church. And so slowly I just started to just say, I can come to church here. And then I became a member. And, and then slowly I still was a connected member, but not, like, all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, every 6 Sundays or something.
6 Sundays. Dip your toe in a little bit and then wait and see. And okay.
Yeah. But still felt like I still felt like I can connect. Yeah. So that's kind of the long story around how I came here.
What would you say was the defining moment for you with your belief in God?
I told you my mom had came to live with me.
Yeah.
She had a host of, like, health problems.
Yes.
She had a stroke, which is why she ended up coming to live with us. She was blind. She was in a wheelchair. She had diabetes, high blood pressure, kind of all of the ailments that plague the Black community was like my mom in one. Yes. On top of her schizophrenia. And then she developed a kidney disease, stage 4. So she had to go through dialysis. And then, Dex and I were growing our family. I was pregnant with my middle child, who's now 9. And I couldn't, like, physically care for her anymore. It was, like, a really hard pregnancy, and, like, I couldn't physically care for her. And so we put her into a skilled nursing facility. And my mom was, like, super unhappy. Like, she was miserable. And so she said to me, I'm done. You know, I'm not going to do dialysis anymore.
She said she's not doing dialysis.
Yeah. She said, take me off of dialysis. And she was going to dialysis 3 days a week.
But for those who don't know what dialysis is, can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about what that is, how it affects the body, and what happens if you stop?
Yes. So dialysis is, you know, it basically helps your kidneys get rid of, helps your body get rid of any kind of waste or anything that's in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so dialysis basically rids your body of all of the blood. It circulates through a pump and a machine, and then it puts it back into your body so that your body doesn't have any excess waste.
You have to have this function.
You have to have it
Okay.
because your kidneys essentially don't function.
Okay.
If you do not do dialysis and your kidneys are not functioning, then your body just builds up this waste, and then you will pass within a matter of days. And so when my mom decided to come off of dialysis, we first tried to convince her, Mom, like, this is basically you terminating your life. You know, this is it. And, you know, Lexington was a baby, and I didn't want her to go, you know. I'm like, I'm sorry. I also felt guilty, like, I put you in a skilled nursing facility, you're depressed, and that's why you want this to happen. And she's like, no, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to do dialysis. And I'm like, no, you are going to die. They took her off of dialysis. So I'm a mess. I'm like, my mom is going to die.
Yeah, you must be very scared. And who are they to say you can't override her decision if well, that's why you're there, to help support and make sure everything goes on track. I would be devastated.
I was furious also. But then you prepare yourself to lose your mom. So part of that is like, she's like, well, I need you to be here with me because, you know, you keep saying I'm going to die. And she's like very jovial about it, you know. And so I'm there with her, and I'm like, okay, let's read, and then let's pray, you know, let's pray together. And so my mom would pray, and then she would make me pray. And I was like, okay, I'll pray. And I didn't feel very comfortable praying at the time because I still wasn't very connected. Even though I was going to True Vine, I wasn't very connected. And she would make me read scripture and listen to, you know, gospel music with her. And so then it was 2 weeks, no dialysis. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Mom's strong. And then it was 2 months. Doctors are like, okay, that's interesting. 6 months. Doctors are like, no answers. No one had answers.
And she still feels okay?
And no.
Okay.
My mom had not urinated. She was puffy, like her body was so big because of the waste that had built up. You can like touch her skin and see the like almost her pores were leaking waste out of her. She was itchy. She couldn't use the restroom. She couldn't get out of bed. She was miserable.
Okay.
Miserable, but she demanded that I come and made me pray.
My goodness.
And made me read scripture. And that was all that she wanted. It made me buy her chicken.
I did not expect that.
My mom liked to eat.
Okay.
She wanted me to buy her like Chick-fil-A and whatever, because she can eat now without dialysis. She can eat whatever she wanted. Okay. Which she couldn't use the restroom, but she would eat. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but she was miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a human being go through so much misery, like complete misery. But then I had another baby, my final child, and she met him. And it was 18 months of that. 18 months with no dialysis. Someone who's supposed to live 24 hours. She's strong. That's a strong woman. But we're giving her morphine because she's in a lot of pain. We're giving her pain like towards the end. And then 18 months. In 18 months, my mom passed. I got the call. It was February 2nd. We had just went to the zoo, and my mom passed.
My goodness.
And, you know, I didn't realize what was happening until it was over. I mentioned earlier, my mom was even through her struggle, through her schizophrenia, through everything, she was very, very serious about her relationship with God. Mm-hmm. She knew who God was. She knew, and she wanted that for me. Mm-hmm. She couldn't leave without that for me.
Right.
And I know, without a doubt, when I went to see her and I saw her, you know, she had passed, and she looked so peaceful. I really think she asked God to show me a miracle. Oh. Because what else could that be?
Right.
Someone living for 18 months?
Right. In pain.
Without urinating?
Yeah.
Without dialysis? That was her faithfulness rewarded. Because she had a life of misery, but she was very faithful. She had every reason to be mean-spirited, to talk nasty to and about people. Yeah. Life dealt her nothing but a horrible hand, but she was a beautiful person, always sweet and kind and nice, and never had much, but would give you whatever she had. Mm-hmm. If someone did her wrong, she forgot it the next day. So when she died, still didn't know. She still was giving all of this to me. And I still, being ornery, right? Me, still, myself, even as a mother, now that's this time, I have 5 kids, and I'm a principal and everything. Yeah. I still am look at me doing for my mom. I gotta take care of my mom. Woe is me. The story is me. Mm-hmm. I gotta take care of her. I gotta do for her. It's hard for me. My life, my story is hard for me. I'm not even thinking about what she is doing for me, what she has sacrificed for me. Mm-hmm. She didn't die. She asked God to not die so that I can know God. I know that. I know she asked for that. Mm-hmm. And that's what he allowed so that I can live with some purpose. And then, now I think about my purpose. When I have 800 kids at my school, and all of these staff who look for me for leadership. And the purpose-driven mission behind that. Mm-hmm. These are God's children. Right. I can't play with this mission.
No, you can't.
It's too big.
That is phenomenal. Big. As you're telling this, I can't help but draw a parallel between the mission of the church in general and Jesus himself. Because a lot of people, they've heard the story, they still don't believe, but I'm sitting here with you. This is you are a human, I am a human. Yeah. Your mother was a human. Right. And very similar to the book of Job, your mother, her cards, maybe not the best of cards, but what she experienced and what you experienced is real. Yeah. And even the doctors were ducking and dodging you on the phone. Yeah. So, and now you're in a position of leadership. You're a mother too, you're a wife, and you believe. Yeah, and out loud. Yeah. And that's another thing True Vine has continuously done for me, is to live your faith out loud, even in settings where it's not all the way accepted. Yeah. Because I am in charge of a public school. Yeah. There's separation of church and state. I have people who believe all kinds of things, who I lead. And I have to be honest with them about my belief. Mm-hmm. And how I carry myself, it shines. Yeah. And so people who don't believe in God will allow me to pray for them
because they're going through something that is beyond what they can manage.
Yeah.
And they need my prayer.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing. And I would not have been able to be this person without those steps.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. And I also realize all of the sacrifice that has transpired in order to prepare me for that. And then I know that God has given me a very specific mission that I have to do. I have to take it very seriously.
Yeah. I want to thank you for sharing that piece, because it definitely has meant a lot. And I am just so grateful to hear it a second time. It really resonates with me in a deeper way, hearing those additional details as well. And hopefully everybody in Cyber Church can also feel what we feel here in the studio. What advice would you give someone who is searching for their own spiritual path? Because a lot of, like I mentioned before, a lot of people out there, they just don't know. There's problems after problems after problems. And even me, I think I can do all bad by myself. I can, if I'm in a problem, I can fix it. I went to school, I'm smart. Don't ask nobody, depend on myself.
Yeah.
But sometimes life is bigger than you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give people? Out there who are searching for their own path?
Yeah. I think something I've learned is that individualism mentality is something that is so true of our generation. I think we're very disconnected from the community, and especially for Black people, for Black young adults. I'm talking 40 and under. We have to be connected to a church community. We can't do it alone. You can't figure things out alone. And actually, God doesn't make us to be alone. He doesn't even, you're not made to walk this earth alone. That's why when you see someone cry, you cry. When you see someone laugh, you laugh.
Yeah.
When you see someone yawn, you yawn.
You yawn. Yeah, that's true.
You're not made to be alone.
Yeah.
It is within your DNA. So you have to find your connection. And if you want a spiritual connection, you have to find people who are also trying to connect spiritually.
I don't want to offend anybody though, because the people who came before us, let's just say 40 and above, they want us to do things the same way. We've always done it this way, stop trying to be different, get off of YouTube, get off this and that, pay attention, do this, do that, that's not right. If I'm walking in my own path and I'm trying to connect but constantly judged all the time, it's just like you said, the isolation is really strong, the individualism is really strong. Will we be accepted for our own path? Because I'm willing to connect, but will we be accepted? Because I don't want any problems from anybody.
Yeah, and that's something that we talked about at the leadership conference. And that's why I'm proud to be a part of the True Vine team and ministry, because what Pastor Zach, the gift that God has given him, the vision of, yes, we still need to learn from our elders, because there's wisdom there. But just because you're old don't mean you're wise. Let's be true. I heard that somebody from the True Vine family said that on Facebook, and I was like, you right.
Just because you're old don't mean you're wise. Okay.
But also we have a human condition where we have to be connected. Yeah. But we can also learn from people who are younger, right? And also the more we pull each other in, right? Like you and I, sister to sister, we pull in our husbands, we pull in our friends. The more we start to build the next generation of the church, where this YouTube podcast is probably not for everybody, but it may be for the next generation of people who are going to start to come to True Vine.
Right.
And so while we can have one way of church, we can have multiple ways of church.
Yeah.
We have multiple ways of thinking. We have multiple ways of being in God's presence. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think where I really appreciate the leadership of Dr. Donna, Pastor Zach, and our True Vine family is that, like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is there are multiple ways of being in the presence of God, and that speak to multiple generations of thought, right? Because when you talk about generations and the way people think, there's differences.
Yeah.
And the way we receive information, the way information sits with us, it's received differently. The way it's said, the way it's the environment, sometimes the noise, and it's different. Yeah. My one advice is, like, give grace. Find a community where you can find a space for yourself. Even if it's like there may not be too many people who you can find a connection with, but find your connection. Find a church that you can connect with and keep that connection. Because my story, I did not know what God was doing for me until it was over. And I think if I had more people with me, like, for instance, if during that trial with my mom, when I was praying with my mom, if I had been more connected with True Vine, if I had actually been talking this through with Pastor Zach or Dr. Donna, or, like, actually processing this, how much more prepared I would have been to support my mom and to let her know she can let go sooner. You know, she would have suffered less, maybe.
But what about that feeling of being vulnerable? You know, like, we're adults. We don't want to expose ourselves.
Yeah.
In this very sensitive, vulnerable journey, like, we don't even know what we're doing. How do we get past that barrier of just being vulnerable?
Well, then if you
while
don't,
you try to
then
find
what?
it?
What happens next?
I don't know.
If you don't step out into that vulnerability to find your connection, to bridge that gap between the world and God, right? Because you have to take that step. Yeah. If you don't, then what happens? What happens to you? For me, I was lost. I was in the darkest point of my life. I didn't know what to do as a young person. So vulnerability is a part of life.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing, right? And then when you learn how to be vulnerable and be your authentic self and just say, this is my flaws, this is what I come with, this is my story, love it or, not, it's okay. I can speak my truth to myself, to you, to anybody. There's no shame to it because it is my truth. And I can find the people who will really connect with me, and then I build my armor so that I'm not so vulnerable to the enemy, to the devil, to the who wants to attack me because of my vulnerability. So it's a superpower.
Right. Yeah. That is so powerful. I really love the fact that you broke that down, because there's a lot of people alone in this world, and our generation, we want options. We don't want to feel stuck. We don't want to feel weak. We don't want to feel judged. But if you take that step into the darkness and take that step and just close your eyes and believe. If you don't have an armor, go find it. Go find that community. If it's not for you, continue pushing, but don't give up on that mission. Yeah. And then from there, you'll be lifted up toward the end. You will be, and it might not even be on your timeline. Because we're impatient.
Correct.
We are impatient.
Correct.
Okay.
And know-it-alls, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We're work in progress.
A work in progress.
Millennial generation is very special.
Yes, we are.
We are.
It's okay. Be patient with us, y'all.
All right.
Okay. True Vine, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us today. So for everybody out there, make sure you tune in to True Vine 896. True Vine 896. There's 3 things that we need you to do: like, subscribe, and comment. Do not be afraid to give us feedback by actually writing a comment in the chat below. We want to hear what you have to say. And also give us some ideas on what other content we can provide for you, okay? I also wanted to point out that we go live 2 times a week. The first time is during our Sunday service, and the second time is during Holla at a Preacher every Wednesday. That'll be it for us today. Thank you so much, True Vine, and have a blessed week.